A 12-year-old boy, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 15-year-old girl, a 16-year-old, another 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. 8 children gone in the space of a single week. And those are just the ones young enough to be in school. The full death toll from the UK's May 2026 heatwave drowning crisis stands at 17. 17 confirmed deaths in open water. 17 families that will never be whole again, and every single one of them was somebody's everything. Stay with this, because what happened in the United Kingdom during the last week of May 2026 is not just a news story, it is a national tragedy that has been building for years, drowning season after drowning season, warning after warning, death after death, and still the country was not ready. Still the children were not taught, still the lakes had no lifeguards, and still the bodies kept coming out of the water. The heat wave arrived suddenly, ferociously, and completely out of character with everything the British climate normally delivers. Within days, temperatures across England and Wales climbed to levels that broke records standing for decades. On May 26th alone, the mercury hit 35.1 degrees Celsius at Kew Gardens in London, the highest temperature ever recorded in the month of May in England's entire recorded history. Cardiff touched 32.9 degrees. Towns and cities that are built for gray skies and mild air suddenly found themselves baking under a sun that felt almost foreign. Schools were on half-term break. Parents had the day off for the bank holiday weekend. And the nearest cool water, a lake, a river, a reservoir, a beach, looked like salvation. The first confirmed death happened on the Sunday of that bank holiday weekend. 15-year-old Declan Sawyer went to Swanholme Lakes in Lincoln, a body of water that sits quietly in the English countryside, looking, on a warm afternoon, like something from a postcard. Declan never came back out. His body was found just after 10:25 that night, recovered after a search that stretched into the evening dark. His father Carl paid tribute to a boy he described as funny, outgoing, who loved football and fishing. A teenager living the most ordinary kind of teenage life, gone on a Sunday afternoon at a lake that looked completely safe. Like and subscribe, because Declan's name deserves to be remembered. The bank holiday Monday that followed would become one of the most devastating single days in recent UK water safety history. 13-year-old Reiko Puddock was pulled from the water at Leadbeater Dam Reservoir near Halifax in West Yorkshire at just after 3 in the afternoon. Paramedics worked to save him. He was rushed to hospital. He was pronounced dead. Hours later, that same evening, the body of a teenage girl was pulled from Kingsbury Water Park in Staffordshire, south of Tamworth. She has not been publicly named. She was somebody's daughter, she was somebody's best friend, and she was found at the water's edge as the bank holiday Monday sun went down on what should have been a completely ordinary warm evening. What happened next broke people in a way that is genuinely hard to describe. Tuesday arrived, and Tuesday did not stop. The body of 16-year-old Mohammed Seka was recovered from Rother Valley Country Park in South Yorkshire in the early hours of Tuesday morning after a search through the night that had begun when witnesses reported seeing a young boy enter the water and not come back. Up. Emergency services searched in the dark, in the water, calling out into the silence. They found him in the early hours, 16 years old. And then, that same Tuesday, 12-year-old Junior Slater went into the River Ribble near Ribchester in Lancashire with his friends. He was from Clayton-le-Woods. His family, in a tribute that broke every person who read it, called him their little blue-eyed boy and said he was the life and soul of their lives. A 12-year-old boy swimming in a river with his mates on a hot afternoon. The kind of thing that has happened in this country for generations. It sounds like a scene from a summer memory, not a tragedy. A massive search operation was launched and ran for hours. Junior's body was retrieved at 7:50 that evening. 12 years old. Like and subscribe, because that little boy's family deserves more than silence. By Wednesday, the search operations were running simultaneously across multiple counties. In Cheshire, divers and helicopter, crews had been searching Pickmere Lake near Northwich for 17-year-old David Tita Jr., who had been reported missing after he was last seen swimming on Tuesday. His body was found by rescuers on Wednesday evening. His family issued a tribute on Friday, the grief in every word unmistakable. A teenage boy recovered from a lake in Cheshire. At around the same time, another body, a teenage boy, was recovered from Hawley Lake near Blackwater in Hampshire, after he had been reported missing the day before. Formal identification was still pending when the news broke. 2 teenagers, 2 separate counties, one day. 14-year-old Baltazar Laki lost his life in the River Thames near Oxford's Donington Bridge, one of the country's most famous rivers, running through one of the country's most famous cities, and still capable of killing a 14-year-old boy on a warm afternoon. 15-year-old Chedza Nyanjoa died at Formby Beach in Merseyside. 16-year-old Charlie Noble lost his life at Bracklin Falls, Stirling, Scotland, a waterfall location that draws visitors because of how beautiful it looks from the path above, and that has claimed lives before because of what the water actually does when you get close to it. A 19-year-old man died at Balderton Lake in Nottinghamshire. A man in his 40s was found in the River Yare in the Norfolk Broads after a large-scale search using sonar equipment and specialist dive teams. A man in his 60s died at Tree Girls Beach near Padstow in Cornwall. A 72-year-old woman died at West Angle Bay Beach in Pembrokeshire, Wales. And then came the death that confirmed the 17th place on this devastating list. A woman in her 60s went into the sea at Rossall Beach in Thornton Clevelys in Lancashire, not for a swim, not even for herself, but to rescue her dog. She went in alongside a man in his 60s, and both of them fought the sea trying to reach the animal. HM Coast Guard crews pulled them both out of the water. The man was rushed to hospital in a life-threatening condition. The woman died. The dog survived. And the world kept spinning because the world does not stop, even when everything else feels like it has. Like and subscribe. Because that woman's courage deserves to be acknowledged. 17. That is the number that ITVX confirmed as the final toll from this heatwave period. And the word final is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, because experts made clear throughout the crisis that they feared the number would continue to grow. The Royal Life Saving Society UK issued urgent warnings at every stage, stating that they consistently see a heightened risk of drowning when air temperatures rise sharply and people seek out open water to cool down. The RNLI echoed the alarm, warning that while the air above the water was blazing hot, the water itself, the rivers, the lakes, the reservoirs, the sea, was still running cold. Dangerously, killingly cold. And that gap between what the body feels above the surface and what it encounters below the surface is the gap where people die. The science behind what kills people in open water during a heat wave is something that water safety organizations have tried to explain for years, and it is something that this country does not teach widely or clearly enough. It is called cold water shock. When a person enters cold, open water, regardless of how warm the air is, regardless of how strong a swimmer they are, the body reacts in a series of ways that are completely involuntary and completely terrifying. The blood vessels in the skin close down immediately. The heart rate surges in an instant, and then, before the person has even consciously processed that they are in danger, the body forces a massive involuntary gasp, a huge intake of breath. And if that gasp happens while the head is below the surface, water enters the lungs. Breathing becomes frantic, hyperventilated, impossible to control. The muscles of the arms and legs begin to seize and cramp. The ability to swim, the very skill that person relied on to feel safe going into the water, can vanish within 30 to 60 seconds. And then the water wins. Like and subscribe. Because this science is not complicated, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. The RNLI's water safety team has spent years trying to drive home one specific technique that can give a person in this situation a fighting chance. They call it float to live. The instinct when you hit cold water in panic is to thrash, to fight, to try to swim hard for the edge. That instinct is wrong. It accelerates the cold water shock response. It burns through energy at exactly the moment when your body has the least to give. The correct response, and this needs to be practiced and remembered, is to tilt the head back, submerge the ears, and let the body float. Keep the hands and feet moving gently to maintain position. Allow the breathing to slow. Let the initial shock pass, and then calmly and deliberately swim to safety or call for help. That is it. That is the difference in some cases between living and not. And it is not taught in most schools in this country. That absence of proper, consistent, mandatory water safety education in UK schools is the part of this story that should generate the most anger. The Royal Life Saving Society, UK and other water safety bodies have been pushing for structured water safety education in schools for years. They have published the statistics. They have run the campaigns. They have held Drowning Prevention Week year after year. And still, in 2026, children are going into open water on hot days without knowing what cold water shock is, without knowing how to float to live, without understanding that the calm-looking lake in front of them could stop their heart within 60 seconds of entry. That is not an accident. That is a policy failure. And 17 people, many of them children, paid the price for it this May. The data that surrounds this crisis should be read by every local authority, every school board, and every government minister with responsibility for public safety in this country. According to national figures, 226 people died from accidental drowning in the UK in 2022. 47% of those deaths occurred between May and August, the exact window when heat drives people toward water. People are nearly twice as likely to drown in inland water, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, than in the sea. The sea gets the safety messaging. The sea gets the lifeguards on popular beaches. The inland water gets a sign that says danger. that most people walk past without reading, and a fence that most people climb over without thinking. And children who are least equipped to assess risk and most likely to follow their friends into water bear the heaviest share of the death toll every single summer. The grief that has settled over the families touched by this crisis is not the kind that a news report can contain. Junior Slater's family, saying he was the life and soul of their lives. Declan Sawyer's father describing a funny, outgoing boy. David Tita Jr.'s family paying tribute to a 17-year-old found at the bottom of a lake in Cheshire. A woman in her 60s dying trying to reach her dog in the sea. A 72-year-old grandmother pulled from a beach in Wales. These are not numbers on a safety briefing. These are people. People with morning routines and favorite foods and voices that their families will hear in their heads for the rest of their lives. And the unbearable truth is that some of these deaths, not all, but some, were preventable. With the right education, with the right awareness, with the right response in the water at the right moment. The heat wave is over now. The temperatures have dropped back to what a Met Office meteorologist called more like spring or autumn, a sharp contrast to the record-breaking heat that turned the final week of May into the deadliest open water period in recent UK memory. The sun that drew 17 people to the water has gone behind the clouds, but the conversation that this tragedy demands cannot go behind the clouds with it, because summer is coming, real summer, and with it, more hot days, more half-terms, more weekends, more children heading for the nearest water they can find to cool down in. Like and subscribe, because this conversation needs to be loud enough that it actually changes something before the next heat wave, before the next bank holiday weekend, before the next name gets added to a list that is already 17 names too long. There's a moment, just before someone enters open water on a hot day, when everything still feels fine. The sun is warm, the water is glittering, the friends are laughing. Everything looks the way a summer afternoon is supposed to look. That moment is exactly when the danger is highest. That moment is when the knowledge that could save a life needs to already be inside the person standing at the edge. Float, tilt back, breathe, wait. Those 4 words are not complicated, they are not expensive to teach, they are not hard to remember, and for some of the 17 people on this list, they might have been enough. Remember their names, share this, and if you are near open water this summer, respect it. Not from a distance, not with fear, but with the kind of knowledge that keeps you alive. The UK's lakes and rivers are not going anywhere. The heat will return. The pull of cool water on a scorching afternoon will return. What needs to change, urgently, fundamentally, before another summer passes, is what every person in this country knows before they step near the edge. 17 people died this May. Let that be the last time we say a number that high. Let it be the number that finally changes something, that their deaths mean something.